The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. The game that perfectly bridged Link's 2D and 3D incarnations. The game that is, to this day, widely hailed as the greatest game of all time. The game that, on a personal level, provoked my interest in the series to which I've never looked back. The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time was an absolutely magical game. And while many argue that our fondness for the game is drenched in a coat of nostalgia, I'll be damned if I take those nostalgia glasses off. And like always, part of what made Ocarina such a classic was the temple design. And by now, you guys should know the drill. We'll start from the bottom and work our way to the top in this week's countdown of the greatest temples in The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Number 9. The Water Temple.
Fuck you!
Water Temple.
But that's some bullshit!
Number 8. Dodongo's Cavern. The cave located up Death Mountain Trail lacks much in the way of creativity, instead serving as a traditional tutorial for players as they bombard the cavern with, well, bombs. And even more bombs. And then, bomb flowers. And finally, some more bombs. Seriously, it all gets a little too bombastic for my taste. But seriously, Dodongo's Cavern features some impressive mini-boss battles with the ever-annoying Lizalfos, and soon, after detonating the giant skull positioned at the far end of the main chamber, you'll face off against the legend himself, King Dodongo. Not as formidable as his title would suggest, the massive infernal dinosaur can be slain after inhaling a healthy diet of, you guessed it, bombs. Dodongo's design is emblematic of the dungeon's elements preceding it. Monotonous design relying too heavily on one item to be completed, an atmosphere that bordered on the side of boring, and a bombshell of unexplored gameplay mechanics. Number 7. The Shadow Temple. The mausoleum hidden under the Kakariko graveyard houses admittedly linear architectural design, along with some uninspired puzzle designs, i.e. collecting groups of silver rubies. Its brilliance supplied instead through an unsettling atmosphere featuring the rise of the undead, numerous saw-like traps, and a disturbing score that aptly suits your descent within the catacombs. Moreover, the dungeon implicitly requires the lens of truth to successfully maneuver past the hallways of invisible doors. And later on, after retrieving the hover boots, Link can navigate past rooms with seemingly invisible floors littered with large gaps of certain death. Most memorable, however, is the treacherous boat ride across a narrow channel of water. Its unobtrusive and unostentatious nature amplifying its bizarre placement, fashioning an absolutely spine-tingling moment. Finally, at the bottom of the crypt, the musically talented pair of hands, also known as Bongo Bongo, awaits. Even without the lens of truth, this monster with a proclivity to drum is not exactly challenging. But after multiple strikes to an invisible eye, Bongo Bongo will no longer be trying to make the band. Number 6. Ganon's Castle. The final test, or should I say, the final series of tests. Each chamber that dwells within houses a unique chain of puzzles that correspond to a particular dungeon that you've already completed. While this castle is ripe with puzzle diversity, the puzzles are simply much easier than prior dungeons given your experience gained from previous conquests and ensuing knowledge of how to dispose of now tired puzzles. And once you dispel all the barriers connecting each subsection of puzzles together, you're ready to ascend Ganon's tower and head towards the inevitable confrontation. The ascent is long and treacherous. Each floor contains floods of enemies that act as an appetizer for the main course. And at the summit rests Ganondorf, calm and collected, plaintively playing his piano, simply awaiting their arrival. The stage is set, and an epic battle atop the tower ensues in the form of energy being struck back and forth between hero and antagonist. After emerging from this tennis battle victorious, Zelda is relinquished from her crystal pod, but explains that Ganondorf is collapsing the temple with his dying breath. Because, arbitrary plot devices used to drive awesome gameplay opportunities. She then escorts Link back through the floors of already defeated enemies, all the way to the ground, where the temple collapses onto itself, setting the stage for the doubly epic, actually final battle between Link and, a sort of mutated pig colloquially known as Ganon. With Navi and Zelda's help, Link can provide the fatal blow with his newly equipped Master Sword and lock the genetically mutated human-pig experiment gone wrong back to the realm of Not Quite Dead. Number 5. The glorified insides of Lord Jabu-Jabu's belly. If I had known of the decorative decor that dwells deep inside our anatomy, I would have paid a hell of a lot more attention in biology class. Be that as it may, it doesn't take a doctor, or more like a lowly YouTuber looking to make a cheap joke, to tell you that Lord Jabu-Jabu isn't exactly of a clear diagnosis. Lined with jellyfish, holes, and yes, hostile penises? Jabu-Jabu's Christmas-colored interior acts as a facade for the child-scarring moments found within. But all of this stuff is awesome, except for this. Yeah, the entirely bare Princess Ruto, who may actually exceed her father's level of laziness and fat assery. Who actually forces Link to haul her fat ass across Lord Jabu Squared.
Ain't nobody got time for that!
Still, this temple is extremely unique and succeeds not solely for its location, but for its puzzles requiring the use of our newly acquired boomerang, enemy designs that can be defeated by smacking ass, and an epic battle against a giant barnacle. Number 4. The Fire Temple. What I truly love about the Fire Temple is the fact that it's driven not by puzzle design that serves as an excuse to add more gameplay, but the fact that it's driven by a self-contained story along with interesting lore associated with the whispers of the re-emergence of an ancient fire dragon. Here, we're fueled more by saving a Goron race in serious jeopardy than we are obtaining a medallion that artificially extends the game's length. As we progress through the dungeon, we free numerous Gorons, each of whom offer hints as to how to progress further. Moreover, this temple is huge. Multiple main chambers filled with fiery pits, fiery enemies, and a funhouse lined with invisible fire walls. Infuriating? Yeah, but pure awesome. There's also the rumblings of an ancient Goron secret weapon, somewhere hidden within the temple. After navigating past a great wall of fire, traversing across a room full of rolling boulders, and using the Megaton hammer to smash the seemingly trite statues all the way back at the dungeon's entrance to reveal a new area, it's finally time to step head to head with the ancient legend, Volvagia, the fire-breathing dragon, a myth no more. Hellfire rains from above as you play the most epic game of whack-a-mole in your entire life, but this legendary creature proves no match for our young hero in the making, able to be crushed to ashes after enough blows with the help of our Goron secret weapon. Number 3. Inside the Deku Tree. Surprising, yeah I know, but the insides of this aging tree supplied some awe-inspiring moments. But most importantly, it introduced Link into the wonderful world that is 3D dungeon gaming. An appropriate first level challenge, the Deku Tree sports what were at the time some revolutionary gameplay mechanics that were possible due only to a 3D engine. The dungeon also possessed an eerie yet fitting atmosphere, rife with foliage, wood, and a giant spiderweb that stretched firmly across a hole in the main floor. So, how does one break a giant web? Or more interestingly, what creature could birth such a creation? To find out, we do as any sane hero would and take a leap of faith jump off the top of the temple and break right through the web, opening another section in this labyrinth of a tree. After completing puzzles that have now become common tropes for the franchise, like lighting torches to reveal hidden chests, or pushing blocks to reach new areas, you reach the end, a room shrouded in darkness. But then, you look up at the ceiling, the hair on your neck raises, and you now realize what spun the giant web. Goma, the parasitic arachnid, defends her territory, valiant in effort, but is slain, along with her young, at the hands of Link's aggression. Number 2. Deep in the westernmost zone of the Desert Colossus lies the Spirit Temple. Unable to enter unless one possesses the heart of a child, Sheik teaches Link the Requiem of Spirit so that he can travel back in time to the good old days of innocent childhood and access the western portion of the temple, as the eastern portion is blocked off for the time being. The Spirit Temple is essentially 2 half dungeons in one, forcing Link to unleash his childish imagination to solve puzzles in the first half, and later employ a more hardened approach suitable to an adult warrior in the second half. Now, the first half of the dungeon is admittedly a bit basic in its design. As you collect silver rupees, you hit switches, and you light torches. But I love how, much like the Fire Temple, detached story elements drive the gameplay. Your quest here, aid Nabooru, the pirate princess, in her quest to lead a rebellion against Ganondorf. So, as you reach the end of the eastern portion, you'll acquire the Iron Gauntlets, which gives Link the strength of a Goron, allowing him to move inexplicably placed boulders that, prevent Link from advancing the story too quickly without Nintendo's consent. Anyway, on our way out, we're witness to Nabooru being murdered by twin witches. With our gauntlets, we go back to the Temple of Time, go through puberty once again, and enter the eastern portion of the dungeon to save her. The adult section is more creative and daunting in its design, intense battles with some iron knuckles and devilish puzzles involving light. And once we acquire the mirror shield, we reflect a ray of light across multiple rooms involving a complex rotation of various stones, shed said light against the sun's face, and lo and behold, you're transported below into a room that looks eerily similar to the Mirror Palace from Twilight Princess. Again, that might be a different video for a different day. Anyway, before the boss lair stands another Iron Knuckle, who upon defeat is revealed to be Naburu, who awakens from a 7-year slumber and provides closure to a not all that mysterious mystery. Finally, Link's treated to an awesome showdown in a battle against the two sisters, who eventually morph into one evil twin Rova, whose magic is used against them, never to be seen again, except, of course, in the direct sequel. Number 1. Link stands before the Forest Temple, deep within the Sacred Forest Meadow, thrust violently into a dangerous, post-Ganondorf-infiltrated world. Although Link now faces new horrors much greater than before, this new world is magical in its own, dangerous light. Magical through its twisting hallways, Harry Potter-esque living paintings, and hidden lifts within the center of the temple, but simultaneously dangerous through its introduction of Stalfos Knights, dreaded wall masters, and collapsing ceilings. Moreover, the temple itself is reminiscent of a haunted mansion. Portraits line the walls, red carpet is rolled across the floor, and moss and vines cling to the corridors. There's even a courtyard that connects the east and west wings of the dungeon. Oh, and of course, it boasts a beautifully haunting score that envelops the gamer in its haunted mansion-like atmosphere. Now, the temple's organically designed architecture and interior fashions a realistically eerie setting that isn't beholden to typical spatial arrangements meant solely to hold contrived puzzle designs. The puzzles themselves are diverse in scope, ranging from the more intimate, i.e. time block puzzles, to the more ambitious, i.e. manipulating room interiors to reach new destinations, or hunting down the 4 Poe sisters to restore the multicolored flames in the center of the temple. Finally, guarding the Forest Temple is Ganondorf? What are you doing here, man? Oh, my bad. It's actually Phantom Ganondorf, who, for whatever reason, stands sentry awaiting Link's arrival. Whatever the logic is behind his appearance, this boss battle is amazing. In the first stage, Phantom Ganon hides inside one of 6 paintings, his replicas feigning a charge while the real, yet still fake Ganondorf gallops forth, ready to strike. His second stage consists of shooting an energy ball from his sword, able to be struck back in what acts as a precursor for the final showdown in Ganon's temple. After finally being defeated, the Forest Medallion is yours. Phantom Ganon writhes in pain, and a dejected Ganondorf condemns his useless creation, banishing it to the realm of in-between worlds. Regardless of the spotty story logic, the Forest Temple epitomizes Nintendo ingenuity. It's a masterpiece aesthetically, atmospherically, and with regard to gameplay design. And as a result, the Forest Temple remains today as my favorite temple in Zelda history. Okay, there you have it. My top 9 dungeons from The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Today's journey was long and treacherous, but we triumphed through a series of increasingly dangerous temples that tested the depths of our valor, the fortitude of our mind, and the limits of our brawn. As a whole, the temples in Ocarina were not my absolute favorite, although there were some great ones, but they undeniably laid the framework for future 3D dungeon designs, and for that, Ocarina of Time is to be commended to the highest degree. Thanks for watching. Once again, I'm Jake Berger. I hope all of you enjoyed this week's countdown. Sound off in the comments below, letting me know if you agree or disagree with my analyses, and feel welcome to present your own countdown. Tune in next week for something a little bit different as I rank the top 10 levels in Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. Until then, I'm out.